So, something not so chill happened last night. Yes, I am talking partially about the Chiefs game, but the thing that happened last night that was super not chill was I did not go back-to-back in my annual Super Bowl cook-off. I lost to some mediocre steak tips. My chicken was banging. So I'm pretty salty about that. It's pretty fresh. I'm not going to lie. But I want to talk about the Super Bowl a little bit. This is going to be our first mock draft post-Super Bowl. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. And if you like the video, go ahead and tell me what type of content you'd like to see. Because I want to make more videos. I want to kind of branch out and do a little bit more variety stuff. But let's talk about the Super Bowl for a minute. If you see content creators saying that was a top 3 Super Bowl all time, they are looking for attention. No, there's no way around that. They're looking for attention. 1.5 quarters of a 5-quarter game does not make that an all-time game. Was it a defensive and coaching masterpiece? Absolutely. Was it exciting to watch? Not in the slightest. Like, it really was not. Like, if you like watching defense and punting, then yeah, that was probably the most exhilarating game you have ever seen in your life. If you're like the rest of us, who like to just, when we're watching the game the first time through, see people throw the ball or run the ball all over the place, then it probably was pretty boring. You probably thought it was boring like the rest of us. Anyway, this is our first mock post Super Bowl, and it has trades. So I've been talking about doing one with trades. I have 3 trades in this mock. 3 trades. One of them, it's possible. I'm curious the feedback I'm going to get on it, because a lot of the trades, I mean, I've done trades before and nobody ever likes them. So I feel like nobody likes any trades unless you like really are thinking through things. But let's go ahead and get into the draft. On the clock, we have the Bears. First pick. Here's the first trade. The Bears are not moving, but we're going to take care of the Justin Fields situation. I have my Twitter right there. I have been talking about Justin Fields to the Steelers since everybody has bet on Justin Fields to Atlanta. Well, to be fair, I thought Bill Belichick was going to Atlanta, so I didn't think they were going to be in the Field sweepstakes. However, the Steelers have always made more sense, because at 8, when everybody was still talking about Fields to Atlanta, Jaden Daniels was still moving up the draft board, right? He wasn't a lock top 3 pick at this point. So for Atlanta at 8, I was thinking like, okay, well, they might be able to get Daniels. Like, they could trade up and get Daniels maybe. Or one could fall to them. Or they could take J.J. McCarthy. The Steelers at pick 20, like, you would, I never, ever thought that Justin Fields would be worth a first-round pick. But moving pick 52 plus some change for Justin Fields, like, yeah, like, I've done, if you didn't see last week's video, it was a 2-rounder. Justin Fields makes the Steelers better than any player I could have drafted in the second round. Like, that's just the reality. It's better than Kenny Pickett. They just released Mitch Trubisky, so they're making room for this move. Like, it's gonna happen. So, with the first trade, we got the Steelers. Where they at? Yeah, pick 20. If you've seen my mocks before, my mock draft videos before, I'm not huge into like predicting trade value, because things could happen. Like, anything could happen. I mean, for all we know, Justin Fields could get moved for a 2nd and a 7th. Or he could get moved for a 2nd, a 3rd, and a future 5th. Like, it could be anything. So I'm just going to keep it pretty vanilla. Like, we're just going to do the big part of the trade, which is the 2nd round pick and Justin Fields. If you want my honest prediction of what I actually think how this trade is going to look, is it could be very reminiscent of the Sam Darnold trade, but to Justin Fields' defense, he's accomplished way more than Sam Darnold. And that trade was a 2022 6th and then a future 2nd, future 4th. So I think that Justin Fields is going to get the Steelers a 2024 2nd, personally. So we're going to do this trade. It's done. So now we'll start the draft. Caleb Williams. The first 4 picks are pretty chalk to me. Like, there's reports out there like, sorry, I'm putting my phone on Do Not Disturb. People are tweeting about Bucky Irving now after I've been tweeting about him for like a month and a half, but what do I know? Anyways, I think the first 3 picks are pretty chalk. First 4 picks. People are saying the Patriots could address QB in free agency. Like, yeah, they could. Are they going to? Definitely not. Like, you could get... The only way I see them taking a free agent quarterback is if they could get Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson. And to be honest, like, I just don't... Like, the Patriots are at... They have so much cap space. Just build this the right way. Like, go... Like, don't cut... Like, I think so many teams cut corners or try to cut corners to compete for, like... To compete now, where, like, the example I would give is the Rams. Like, the Rams, and I'm not saying it in a bad way when I say the Rams. I mean, like, the Rams did it successfully because they won a Super Bowl. So, like, obviously it was worth it. If they didn't win a Super Bowl, we're sitting here like, was all that worth going all in for Matt Stafford, jeopardizing 4 years? No, granted, the Rams are one of the best teams at drafting in the entire NFL. It's not even close. So they are ahead of schedule. But they're an interesting team to watch for a quarterback. I'm going to, spoiler, I didn't draft them a quarterback, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle quarterback, because obviously I don't think Stafford's retiring. But anyway, we'll talk about them later. But with Washington, we'll go Drake May and then Jaden Daniels. I think that this is the way it's going. I don't see any route, anything else. Pick 4 is the Cardinals, Marvin Harrison. There's an off chance. I'm not even going to say it like it's going to happen or even could. I mean, it could happen because it's the draft. But there is a chance that they take Malik Neighbors over Marvin Harrison. It's not likely, but you could bet on it. There are odds. I'm just saying, like, the draft, anything can happen. So here's our second trade. I have been saying for about 4 weeks now, the Chargers should trade back. That should be option 1 for the Chargers. And if you listen to anything on Radio Row this past week of Sean Payton, he gave a lot of interesting answers to some questions he was asked. One of which was, obviously, what are you going to do at quarterback? He wants to fall in love with his exact. I was trying to think of his exact quote. His exact quote was, "They want to fall in love with a quarterback," and he expounded upon that in saying, "I want to fall in love with the quarterback, and if I do, like, basically, if I do, I don't care where people think I should draft him." He also did say that the Broncos, any report about the Broncos trading up is kind of silly because they haven't even had their first draft meeting, which was held today, from what he said, which was held today. I think that there's no question they would like to trade up, to be honest with you. I think him saying that there's no doubt, like, no, there's all the rumors are kind of false. I think that was kind of like smoke, because I think why wouldn't the Broncos trade up? They tried to cut, like, basically restructure Russell Wilson to get out of his contract. Didn't work. They talked about bringing back Russell Wilson. I don't see that happening. I think that relationship's broken, no matter what they say. Me personally, I mean, I could be wrong, but so we're gonna have the Chargers trading back with the Broncos. Now, another team that could be looking to trade up is the Vikings. And the reason why I went with the Broncos is, let's just look at this from a logical mindset. Sean Payton alone has more front office, team structure, team building experience than anybody in the Vikings organization has currently. So I think he would assume that the Vikings are going to look to trade up, and I think that the Chargers are the team to trade up with, being that, like, yeah, they could go Bowers, yeah, they could go Malik Neighbors, yeah, they could go Dunze, yeah, they could go Alt. There's so many things this team could do. Reports are that they're going to keep Keenan Allen, from what I've read. Mike Williams, different story. I think with the holes on this roster, though, and being negative $45 million in cap space, receiver's not really your ideal spot to start this build from. Like, I think just Jim Harbaugh has always always developed his trenches first, like always. So I think moving out of this pick, unless they're going to stick and pick Alt, but I think a lot of teams are going to try to come up for this fourth quarterback because everything is saying that J.J. McCarthy is way higher in NFL circles than Bo Nix. The media has really championed Bo Nix, myself included. But I'm someone who will adapt. And if the reports from Radio Row, from the Senior Bowl, is that J.J. McCarthy is... I mean, that's two separate occasions where now it's coming out that multiple executives have J.J. McCarthy as a top 10 pick. Someone's going to come up for him. I don't think teams are going to let him fall to Atlanta at 8, to be honest. And I like J.J. I think J.J. McCarthy is one of the most underrated, overhated prospects in the... And I mentioned it last week. Like, yes, J.J. McCarthy did not do a lot at Michigan. But... the idea is it's because he couldn't, and the ability to do what you're saying he can't is all over the film, like all over. And I'm not a huge film junkie, but I watch people who know how to break down film. It's there, man. Like I think one of the things we get not confused with, but like distracted by is like the things Caleb Williams could do. These amazing, wow, like oh my God, that's 101. Nobody else is gonna do that, but like. You watch someone like Brock Purdy in college, who just played in the Super Bowl. Yes, he's in an elite system, but like he did just play in the Super Bowl and was nearly perfect in that system. His college tape, like, yeah, he's making every throw, but he's standing in the pocket. And that's such an undervalued aspect of playing quarterback, I feel like, nowadays, because we're so spoiled with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes doing these insane things that, like, we forget that games are won from the pocket, and J.J. McCarthy can do things outside the pocket. That's not what I'm saying, but, like, he is so good in the pocket at making off-platform throws, at making the right reads from the pocket, at standing in muddy pockets and making throws. I get why NFL executives have J.J. as high as they do. So, we have and I think that he would be the perfect quarterback. Him or Bo Nix, but I think J.J.'s actually better. I've swapped Bo Nix and J.J. on my board, my big board, which I'm almost done with. I have my top 50. I'm almost done with that. So I don't know what this trade's going to look like. I know that it will definitely be something like that, like at least 2 firsts, because you're coming from pick 12. 2 firsts, and something else. I mean, there will be more. I don't know exactly what, but there will be more of this trade. So the Broncos are going to come up, and they are going to take J.J. McCarthy at pick 5. New York Giants at pick 6. I think this team, like, you have to get, like, as a Giants fan, and have gone through this for decades now, you have to get Malik Nabers. Like, you cannot complain about a lack of explosive offense if you pass on Malik Nabers. To me, Malik Nabers is the same level prospect, or I don't want to say same level because Jamar Chase is like arguably the best receiver I've ever watched in college. But I did do an evaluation on Twitter. Like, please follow the Twitter. There's a ton of stuff on there of Malik Nabers. And the numbers, the analytical profile are they're the same size, 6 foot, 200 pounds. They have identical breakout year stats, like almost identical. Malik Nabers would be pick 4 in this draft if Marvin Harrison Jr. was never born. Like, that's just the reality of this. I think the difference between him and Jamar Chase, though, like, just to expound on my own comparison, and I don't do comparisons lightly, like, I really try to think through these things. I don't just see, like, oh, Loudon McConkey's a lanky white receiver. He's probably Cooper Kupp. Like, no, like, that's not how I operate. But I think the difference in Malik Nabers and Jamar Chase is you forget that Jamar Chase is only 6 foot because of how big he plays and how freaky of an athlete he is. But the Giants, like I love Joe Alt. Joe Alt he is my OT1, I guess. It's between him and Olu. I really like coin flip it every day. But like, here's the thing with the Giants, right? You have no explosive offense. You cannot pass protect. So if you're gonna relegate or regress, I don't want to say regress because it's not really a regression, but if you want to get explosive in a system that you've used that has had success, adding Malik Nabers to the 2020 Giants offense, which had a bad offensive line, that went to the playoffs, you will be able to produce explosive plays because of this kid alone, because of what he could do after the catch, because of what he can do at the catch point, which is how fast he is. Like, people are talking about Brian Thomas Jr., who I like, but I'm not nearly as high on him because you're banking on the upside, which, yeah, he could get there, and he's a freaky athlete, but, like, he struggled against Alabama. And Alabama has Terrion Arnold, who Daniel Jeremiah has a top 5 pick on, Kool-Aid McKinstry, who I think is going to, in redraft scenarios, be a top 20 pick, top 15 pick. Brian Thomas Jr. had 3 catches for 36 yards. Malik, and we're talking about 2 cornerback ones in the NFL. Definitely one with Terrion Arnold, who followed Malik for most of the game, I think. He had 10 catches for 171 yards. Like, this kid is not real life. The Giants haven't had a player like this since, and I'm all about building the trenches, but at some point you need to see your return on investment, and you have so much draft capital, top 100 draft capital in the offensive line. You got to trust your new offensive line coach who fixed the Raiders' offensive line, brought them from a 28th ranked offensive line to rank 13 and 10 in back-to-back years. You got to trust him and fix other holes on this offense. Like, you got to hope he could get the best out of Evan Neal rather than replace Evan Neal. You got to hope that he could get the best out of Josh Azudu. You got to hope that he could get the best out of Marcus McKeithen. What he can't fix and what nobody can fix is the lack of athleticism and explosiveness in the wide receiver room. I like Jalen Hyatt, but he doesn't run the route tree like Malik Nabers does. I like Wan'Dale Robinson, but he's 5'8". I like Darius Slayton, but he's a wide receiver too. Like, you have to draft Malik Nabers. You have to draft Malik Nabers. You have to do anything you can to draft Malik Nabers. And if you don't, and if you pass on him, do not complain about your offense not being explosive next year. Like, I'm sorry. Like, just don't do it because you made your bed. Now you got to lay in it. Like, Titans pick 7. It's a long video to be at pick 7. But anyways, Titans pick 7. Joe Alt, I think that this team, like, you're building from level, like, ground zero. You got to get your offensive line, your OT1. Joe Alt, Peter Skoronski, your left side of the line's fixed. Don't worry about it. Start fixing everything else. You will be... Will Levis doesn't have to worry about being hit from the left anymore. Fact. Atlanta. Too early for Bo Nix, in my opinion. Just being honest. And if someone wanted to come up for Bo Nix here, I would definitely trade back. I think we're going to keep it the same here. Apparently their guy is Jared Verse. They were one team that was reportedly very upset that Jared Verse went back to school last year, and they had pick 8. So I think that this is their guy. Pick 9 is the Bears. I never had the choice to pick Brock Bowers here. However, I am not going to pick Brock Bowers here. I think it's very enticing, but love Romo Dunze. I think he is such an everybody thinks of Romo Dunze as like he's going to run on the field and make a contested catch. He is so much more than that. In his Radio Row interview, one of his favorite players growing up was Devin Hester because of what he could do after the catch, like what he could do as a playmaker. And like, to me, that just tells me, like, this kid wants to make plays after he catches the ball. He's not looking to catch the ball and fall down like some other receivers, like Tyler Lockett does. I mean, Tyler Lockett is just protecting the longevity of his career. I'm not hating on Tyler Lockett. I love Tyler Lockett. But, like, Romo Dunze, I'm telling you, I mentioned it last week. Go watch Washington versus Oregon State. In a monsoon, Romo Dunze went nuts and, like, still made those acrobatic contested catches in the pouring rain. I think he mentioned at Radio Row, like, he had practiced with the Washington basketball team, like rebounding drills and all that stuff. So, like, he also, like, loves the physicality of football. He had to drive back from one game after he, like, broke his rib or something. Something crazy. Like, he really is kind of a psychopath, which I like. And I think that pairing your your rookie quarterback with DJ Moore and Romo Dunce, and like an offensive line that is developing. Like, you need to address the interior. You got some money this offseason. Your tackles are okay. Like, you got Darnell Wright last year. I would try to fill in center, guard in free agency or in the second or third round. But I think you're walking out with QB1 to most people. I like Drake May more. And Romo Dunze, wide receiver 3 at pick 9, who's a very talented wide receiver. Like, he would be wide receiver 1 of last year's class. Easy, no question. Pick 10, this is where I'm kind of diverting from what I've done in the past. And I think that this is a predictive mock as well. So, like, this is the most Jets logic I could think of, is we need to win now because of what we've done to our franchise by mortgaging everything for Aaron Rodgers, and then you're probably going to trade for Devontae Adams or offer an absurd trade to the Raiders for Devontae Adams. I think they would pass on Olu Fashanu. I don't think that's a correct move. But with how well Talisi Fuaga is right now, he will come into the NFL better than Fashanu will off his run blocking ability alone. And he's a very underrated pass protector, which people are kind of starting to catch on to. That's not my words. Like, I didn't think that Fuaga was as good as a pass protector as he's proven at the Senior Bowl. But that has moved him up NFL boards. And I think the Jets, who are trying to go chase a championship right now, they're going to take the better prospect now than the best prospect that could help their franchise in the future, because he might have concern. There are strength concerns with Fashanu. There are strength concerns about him in the run game. He does have reps where he gets beat by JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State. Like, I would take Fashanu because he's only 20. So, I mean, if you're watching this and you're over the age of 20, what happened to you when you hit 23? You're stronger than you were at 20 because you're a man. So, I think they're stupid. I think the strength concerns are stupid, but for the Jets, like, you don't have time. Honestly, you don't have time. Vikings at pick 11. I think the Vikings were the other team I thought of trading up to 5. However, I do think they are going to really try to keep Kirk Cousins. That doesn't mean they won't keep Kirk Cousins and draft his replacement, but I do think they're going to keep Kirk Cousins. And with that, I opted to replace Danielle Hunter potentially with, and if you just have Dallas Turner staring you in the face right here, who I think is the best pass rusher in the class, I think you jump on that because you need help on the D-line, especially if Danielle Hunter's walking. You really need help on the interior D-line, but I do think Dallas Turner won't have a Will Anderson effect on a D-line, but I do think he will have a similar effect, not to that degree, but his presence will be felt. He will be making plays. Yep. Anyways, pick 12. I was very torn on this because I did trade back with addressing the trenches in mind. And I think I'm going to change this pick right now. I'll be honest, my original pick was Terrion Arnold. Because aside from Asante Samuel and Derwin James when he plays, secondary's trash. But so is your interior defensive line, which is putrid bad. And I wanted to go Terrion Arnold, but I'm actually going to take the best from what I have. Like, this is the thing. I think Byron Murphy is interior defensive line 1. That's not why I'm taking him here. I'm taking him here because Daniel Jeremiah had him as the first interior defensive lineman off the board. And what that, if I say this every video, but Daniel Jeremiah's first mock draft is based off of what he's hearing around the league. And if Byron Murphy went off the board ahead of Johnny Newton at pick 11, I have no issue taking him here. Because this is a team, like I mentioned, they will address the trenches. It's going to happen. I think it makes more sense to do this than to take Terrion Arnold, even though Terrion Arnold is probably the better prospect. Doesn't mean he's the better player, but Byron Murphy's going to be a 3-down interior defensive lineman. And you see in the NFL today, having not a nose tackle, but a true interior defensive lineman that could fill in different gaps and be on the field for 3 downs is so scarce. They're getting drafted higher and higher every year. Like Kalijah Kancey, and we're also seeing like an emergence of undersized interior defensive linemen excelling in the NFL. Look at Kalijah Kancey from last year. He fell because he was smaller, and he played incredible. Look at his. I think in his playoff game, his pressure rate doubled from what it was in the NFL season, in the postseason, in the 2 playoff games they had, which is a phenomenal sign. Phenomenal sign. And I think that Byron Murphy is actually a better prospect than Kancey was. So, Chargers, I think this is a home run. Home run. You get an extra first. You get the best interior defensive lineman in the class, and probably something else. Like, I know something else. Especially if the reports are true that the Broncos are trying to offer a Godfather deal to get up there, then yes, that's gonna happen. Raiders, I just don't buy that they're gonna keep with AOC. I mean, there are Aiden O'Connell truthers out there. I don't have enough of an opinion to even say that I care. I mean, his last game, he didn't complete a pass for a whole 3 quarters. So, whatever. I think they would go with Bo Nix. I think they're either going to look to bring in a vet or Bo Nix. It just makes too much sense. I know you have Jimmy G, but that was an absolute disaster. And I like that move. I'm not going to BS and act like I didn't like that move. I like that move because I don't like Derek Carr, and I was like, oh, you're saving money. But Jimmy G just never played, so it didn't matter. You were never winning that division with Jimmy Garoppolo. I've said that before as well. But if you could save money and get a similar caliber quarterback, then, why would you not do it? Jimmy just can never stay healthy. Saints at 14, I think this is an absolute godsend. I thought about Bowers here, but just with Fashanu here and tackle being such a huge need for this team, I just didn't. I would sprint this card to the podium because Fashanu has such a bigger long-term impact on this team than Brock Bowers will, and I like Brock Bowers. I'm a huge Brock Bowers fan. I think it's hysterical. This is the pick for the Colts anyway. It was Bowers. I think it's hysterical that people are seeing that picture of Bowers next to Gronk and moving him down there, literally moving him down their board as if he didn't dominate the SEC as a true freshman because he looked small next to Rob Gronkowski. That's just the draft. That is why the draft is so amazing, is because people are so emotional. You saw this picture of this kid who's literally dominated the SEC. You saw a picture that made him look small, an inch smaller than what he was listed at, and now he's down your board 10 spots. That's crazy. I check my Twitter. I have done the work. I compared Brock Bowers and Jatavion Sanders, their analytical profiles, to all of the successful tight ends, that tier of tight ends you want to draft on your fantasy team. Which is Travis. I didn't do Travis Kelce because PFF's data didn't go far enough back for what he was in college. But George Kittle, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts, the last year's class, and Trey McBride, Laporta, Kincaid, whatever. It's all on my Twitter. So go check out my Twitter. It's in the highlighted tweets. My takeaway from that was Brock Bowers is still really, really good, but he's not a better prospect than Kyle Pitts was. Because Kyle Pitts is 6'6" and as good of an athlete, and Brock Bowers is probably 6'2". Kyle Pitts is just... I hate Arthur Smith, man. I just hate Arthur... Anyway. Pick 16. Nothing's changing here. We're going to go with the best... people have a blue chip grade on Jackson Powers Johnson, and I honestly don't disagree after the Senior Bowl. Find the flaw in his game. Run blocking? Nope. Pass protecting? Nope. Can he play guard? Yup. Can he play center? Yup. Can do any when I say dominated the Senior Bowl, dominated. Top prospects in this class, dominated them. Him and Quinyon Mitchell were the 2 biggest risers from Senior Bowl, and then maybe Roman Wilson, because Roman Wilson was a 5th round pick before the Senior Bowl. Here's our last trade. And this is a controversial trade because it involves money. I talked to a Jaguars fan slash prospect slash analyst. And I think we're gonna record a video together just talking about the Jaguars. And he thought that this was a very interesting trade idea because it makes sense. It makes sense. So, I said last week that I hate this pick for the Jaguars because you could solve roster holes here, but I think you actually have a golden opportunity. And I'm basing this trade off of the Titans Philadelphia Eagles trade for A.J. Brown. And you're going to say, like, oh my God, T. Higgins isn't nearly as good as A.J. Brown. Well, let me read you their resumes from when A.J. Brown was traded. Right? So the trade for A.J. Brown was pick 18 and pick 108 to the Titans for A.J. Brown. Okay. Here are the stats. A.J. Brown, this is from 2019 to 2021. He was traded in 2022. 2019, rookie year, 52 catches, 1,051 yards, 8 touchdowns. 2020, sophomore year, 70 catches, 1,075 yards, 11 touchdowns. 2021, 63 catches, 869 yards, 5 touchdowns. So a down year. I think he was hurt this year too. T. Higgins, rookie year, 67 catches, so more catches, 908 yards, less yards. Remember, Joe Burrow got hurt this year, 6 touchdowns. His next year, Joe Burrow's healthy, and they get Jamar Chase. 74 catches, 1,091 yards, 6 touchdowns. 2022, 75 catches, 1,042 yards, 7 touchdowns. So their stats are very, very similar, so I would assume that the value is the same. They're both young receivers that played second fiddle in their offense behind Derrick Henry or Jamar Chase and had elite wide receiver 1 production, or potential, I should say. So what I thought here was this makes sense. We are going to trade this pick because the enticing part of this for the Bengals and why they would do this is you're getting a discount at receiver and you're going to have back-to-back first-round picks, which is huge. So, because it gives you a lot of control over the draft board. We were going to trade pick 17 and Calvin Ridley. And the reason why we're going to trade Calvin Ridley is because if you extend him, he's going to cost you a second-round pick. If you trade him, you don't have to pay him. You don't owe the Atlanta Falcons a second-round pick. For the Bengals, of why they would want Calvin Ridley is you still need to fill the void at wide receiver 2. Because if you franchise T. Higgins, the other thing you have to think about is you have to pay DJ Reader. DJ Reader has one of the most impactful on-off splits of any player in all of professional football. So in my opinion, if you have a franchise tag, it has to go to DJ Reader. You're not going to extend T. Higgins. You simply cannot afford it with paying Jamar Chase now. And you're probably going to pay DJ Reader. You have other holes to fill in the roster. So Calvin Ridley at 29 is going to be a potential Adam Thielen-like contract where you could backload some of the money or move the money around to where it makes sense. Where T. Higgins is going to be real, because T. Higgins is going to want wide receiver 1 money. He's already made that clear. I think Spot Track had him at about 18 million, which is not correct. They're basing that off of his production. They're factoring in his production this past season, where Joe Burrow was, which is just factoring numbers. That's how it works. That does not account for injuries, and it does not account for Joe Burrow being hurt. So downgrade a quarterback. Calvin Ridley, I think T. Higgins will probably be in that like a 1B tier of like probably like 22, like the lower 20 millions, which makes complete sense for a wide receiver 1 money, which you would be paying him to be, and what he's going to ask the Bengals to pay him, but they have to pay Jamar Chase probably closer to 27 million per year, 26 million per year, because cap space is going up, where you could pay Calvin Ridley probably 17 million, and you're going to save 5 to 6 million on average over the next 2 years. Per year for the next 2 years, if that makes sense. So I think them getting the Bengals taking a wide receiver 2 who has 1,000-yard production would be a phenomenal wide receiver 2 and probably fill in for T. Higgins seamlessly because all the attention is going to go to Jamar Chase. And we saw that Calvin really can't really beat man coverage anymore. This trade just makes total sense to me. So it's, to reiterate, it's Calvin Ridley and pick 17 for T. Higgins. Straight up. And which what that does for the Bengals is they're going to go ahead and take J.C. Latham to replace Jonah Williams. And then they're going to take arguably the cornerback 1 of the class in Quinyon Mitchell. So now you've addressed 2 huge positional weaknesses and got Calvin Ridley. I think this trade makes total sense. And I don't know if it'll happen, but it's a really cool idea. And I think the cool part about it is it's a practical idea. People are going to say, no, it's not, but like it really is. Especially when you think about the money. Pick 19 is the Rams. And if you watch the playoff game, the biggest issue with the Rams was they cannot generate any pressure. I think you could go Terrion Arnold here, but you got no edge presence. And the only pressure you had was from Kobe Turner and Aaron Donald. So adding someone like Latu just makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's one of the most productive edge rushers in the class. I think the most productive edge rusher in the class. The only thing is his neck concern. He had to retire from medically retire from football twice. So there is that. But from the reports coming out of the Senior Bowl is it's not going to matter that much. Which I don't see how that makes any sense. But that is the report. Which I don't buy it, which is why I still have him at pick 19. If I did buy it, I'd probably have him outside of around pick 12, pick 13. Steelers. So keep in mind, you did get Justin Fields. That was the trade at the beginning of the draft because if the Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams, Fields has got to go somewhere. I think the team that makes the most sense is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you get your quarterback 1 for a second-round pick plus some change, which we don't know what that is. And then you're going to move Broderick Jones back to left tackle, and then you're going to draft his national championship buddy, Amarius Mims. Amarius Mims, hard to project because he did not play a whole lot. He was supposed to be the full-time starter this year. He dealt with injuries, but when he did play, it was really, really good. He's raw. It's going to take time. People are going to call him a bust when the season starts. Just let him develop. Just let him develop. Pick 21 is the Dolphins. I think Troy Fautanu, people don't have a first-round grade or complain about him being a first-round pick. I don't care. He's going to be a first-round pick. Interior flexibility all over the line. Can play tackle. Played in the air raid offense. Will fit seamlessly in Miami. Can play center. I really don't think this pick is... It's up for debate, but it's not a bad pick. Like, I won't... you can't convince me it's a bad pick. Eagles. I've gone back and forth with corner tackle. It seems that in the Eagles fan community, there is a split on whether they want corner or tackle. I think this is tough because corner, in my opinion, is a bigger need for the Eagles than tackle. But how Howie Roseman operates is he always addresses a position of need a year early. And with Lane Johnson probably having 1-2 years left in the tank max, I don't know how long you're going to kick the can down the road with this pick. But with how deep this class is at tackle, like someone I really like in the second round, that I just want to shout out, is Dominic Pooney from Kansas. I really like Christian Jones as a later round pick. And I like Patrick Paul a lot. Like I think there's obviously picks that will be there come their second round pick. And the Eagles have 2 second round picks from the Saints trade because the Saints traded up to get Chris Olave a few years ago. So I just thought that with Terrion Arnold falling down the board, I mean, he's definitely not going to fall as far, but this class is so deep at the top of it. Like, it's really hard to put these people... Like, I mean, this draft, like, people are going to fall, and I don't necessarily know if Terrion Arnold's going to be one of them. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, like, I had him going to the Chargers at pick 12. Daniel Jeremiah had him going to the Chargers at pick 5. But if he's here for the Eagles, I mean, I think Howie Roseman just runs this up to the good old commish. Pick 23 is the Texans. And I have consistently gone Johnny Newton here. And I know that that is a fan favorite pick. But I feel like I should do something else. Because Johnny Newton might not be here. But he is here, is the tough part. Oh, man. Who did I have taking Johnny Newton? Oh, that's right. Okay. Dang. Screw it. We're gonna go with Johnny Newton here. This is gonna change a lot of things, but that's okay. I just think that, like I've said for the past 3 mock draft videos, like Johnny Newton, some people have a blue chip grade on him, a smaller size interior defensive lineman, but he's gonna go first round. He is a very, very talented player. Keep building this interior defensive line that took massive steps in 2023. Now you're going to get another run stopper, but with pass rush capabilities from the interior defensive line. Dang, dude. This kind of screws everything up, but that Chargers pick changed everything. Whatever. Okay, Dallas at pick 24. We're going to go with Tyler Guyton. I think Dallas is the top 2 team in the NFL at developing offensive line talent and giving them a clump of clay like Tyler Guyton, who is seen as the most athletic tackle in the entire draft, over Joe Alt, over Olu Fashanu, over Talisi Fuaga, over Amarius Mims. Like, giving them that is just all pro potential. Like, we see them do it every year. They do not miss on offensive linemen. And I think that they would have Tyler Guyton pretty high on their draft board. Pick 25 is the Packers. So, I actually was thinking about this today. I tweeted it out. The NFC North, low-key, might have the best group of wide receivers in the entire NFL. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison for the Vikings. Let's go to the Bears. DJ Moore, potentially Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors. Potentially Brock Bowers even. Then you go to the Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would even throw Jahmyr Gibbs in there, kind of, because he does catch a lot of passes. Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson. I mean, they're not really going to see a ton of corner coverage unless it's slot corner or a linebacker. But anyways, Packers, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. Not a Christian Watson guy, just going to be honest. Corner is a huge need for this division. Like, if you're gonna compete to win this division, you need good corner play. And I just think with Cooper DeJean just chilling here, I love Cooper DeJean. I'm higher on Cooper DeJean than a lot of people. I've moved him down my board some, because I think Terrion Arnold is just a better technician at the position, while being almost as good of an athlete as Cooper DeJean. I think Quinyon Mitchell really proved himself at the Senior Bowl, because in my mind, Quinyon Mitchell was Cooper DeJean light, but he might actually be better technically sound than Cooper DeJean. And I've mentioned it a ton. I am super high on Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry is a product of prospect fatigue, where he's fallen down the board because he was so good all of last year. He was so good in 2023. The reason Terrion Arnold rose up boards and Kool-Aid fell is because nobody threw at Kool-Aid, and they targeted Terrion Arnold, and Terrion Arnold had a breakout year. That's not the only reason why Terrion Arnold is viewed as high as he is. He's an elite mover. He has fluid hips. He's great at the catch point. He's great in phase, out of phase. Great downfield speed. Opens his hips really, really well. Just one of the most fluid movers in the class at his size. And he's younger. But Kool-Aid by no means regressed, in my opinion. So I don't see why Kool-Aid has fallen this far. Now, I understand, like, you can't just go corner, corner, corner. But, like, I would not be shocked if Kool-Aid is, like, when it comes draft season, back as corner 1. Because he came into the year as a top 10 pick. I mean, like, he was a top 10 pick and then fell because someone else on his team played well while Kool-Aid played well. It wasn't like Kool-Aid took a step back. So Yeah, I mean, I just had to get that off my chest about Kool-Aid. Pick, who we at? 26 on the clock. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Personally, I think you got to go interior offensive line, and I don't think there's a better player that, like Graham Barton is like this year's Peter Skoronski, where he can play tackle, but you're probably going to put him at guard. But if he has to play tackle in an emergency, it's going to be fine. But I like Graham Barton, and I think if you're going to roll with Baker, which you have to roll with Baker, keep him protected. Because Baker plays well when he's protected. Look at him on the Panthers. Played like booty cheeks. So, Arizona Cardinals pick 27. I had Johnny Newton here, but obviously he's no longer available. So, I think we're going to take a corner here, and we're going to go with Kool-Aid. I think that's the right pick. I already talked about Kool-Aid a lot. So, and Arizona's defense is so bad. Their worst unit is the interior offensive line. But I'm not going to reach on one because there's so many holes to fill. So, I think we're going to take the best player available at a position of need, which is Kool-Aid McKinstry. Pick 28 is the the Bills. I think we're going to go with Brian Thomas here. I think this is pretty chalk. They will go receiver. I have Troy Franklin higher on my board. I have Troy Franklin. I'm not going to say every. I have a few receivers over Brian Thomas. And the reason why is with Brian Thomas, the allure is he's a true 6'4", elite athlete, which is great because you see some of these players listed at 6'4" that are just not 6'4" when they get into the league or at the combine or whatever. But with Brian Thomas, there's so much potential that if he was better than the players I had ranked over him, I would not be shocked. The issue I have is he's not the best route runner. He doesn't fully understand leverage, in my opinion, and from what I've read. I think he's really elite at the catch point, and I think he's elite downfield speed. He's just not better than players right now. Like, I think Troy Franklin will translate way easier into the NFL than Brian Thomas. I like Brian Thomas. I'm a Brian Thomas fan. I hope he succeeds. But I think people are higher on him than they should be, in my opinion, because if you look at the analytical profile on my Twitter, it's not great. Like, it's really not great. And he was a late breakout. He does not have great yards per route run numbers. He took a step with better QB play, but like I mentioned, like, he's not the best route runner. Like, he doesn't really run a full route tree. Even in the Alabama game, he had 36 yards. A lot of them were manufactured touches, where like they're just scheming him open underneath. But then you watch him play Ole Miss, and he looks like Megatron. So like I get it. So I mean, it is what it is. I think Brian Thomas is he's for sure a first round pick. I don't know if I would take him over Troy Franklin if I was the general manager, and I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. Lions on the clock. We're gonna go Nate Wiggins. I think you have to take corner. Cam Sutton just is not what you're paying him to be. Corner secondary, aside from Brian Branch, was the weakness of this team in the playoffs and really all season. I like addressing the interior or the defensive line as a whole. You need edge too. I like maybe if you were to go with Chris Braswell or Braylon Trice here would be a fine pick. But if we're talking about best player available for a position of need, I think it is Nate Wiggins, who's better than Braylon Trice, who's better than Chris Braswell, et cetera, et cetera. Ravens, I think you could go back and forth with receiver or corner here. I think Troy Franklin would be a great pick. Matabuke is not leaving the building, so I didn't even think about that. Like, you're either going to franchise tag him or extend him. It's not even... Marlon Humphrey is probably the odd man out, in my opinion. So, replacing him is kind of paramount. So, with that being said, I think that Enos Rakestraw out of Missouri is... I like his teammate Chris Abrams-Drain a lot, but Enos Rakestraw, he is just a phenomenal player. Great man coverage. He's very, very, very physical. I think he would fit very well into the Ravens defense. He's great at run defense, great run defender. And inside-out flexibility at you know, boundary corner potential. I think he's just a Ravens type player, if that makes sense. Like, you know how like Aiden Hutchinson is a Detroit Lions type player, like if that makes sense. I think Rakestraw would be a great addition to the Ravens defense, which is going to look a lot different this year because they lost Mike McDonald. So there's that. 49ers, you're going to lose. Also, can we just talk about the tragedy that was Dre Greenlaw yesterday? Dude, I mean, imagine training your whole life for something. Like, I was talking to my cousin who played D1 tennis. And I was like, imagine going to finally making it to the U.S. Open, and you're just taking, like, a little break. You're getting your little Gatorade, your juice, or whatever. And then you go to take the court, and your Achilles just pops. Like, it wasn't like he was making a play or anything. He just was going back onto the field, and boop, done. I mean, probably done for most of next year, too. So, like, you got to factor him not being on the roster. And then you're probably not going to re-sign Chase Young. I think, like, the interior of the offensive line is garbage. I think that's the biggest need on this team. That and corner, too. But I think that there is going to be an opening that makes edge just as big of a need. And with the players available, like, Jordan Morgan's not going to play guard, I don't think. I don't think any of these guys are gonna come in at guard. And if you look at the interior, like Zach Frazier is such a good center. I don't see you putting him at guard. I think Christian Haynes could be picked here. He dominated the Senior Bowl. I like that pick a lot. But I think Braylon Trice, dude, 16 pressures in one game, like just a phenomenal edge rusher. He needs to work on his his attack plan, pass rush moves. He's just a speed to power rusher right now with a nasty outside in. Like, for people who don't know what I'm talking about, he basically does a Euro step, and it's really effective. Like, I'm not trying to downplay it, but like really, really effective all over his tape. So I like Trice here. And then this is a pick that I've had here for a long time, since the first video. Troy Franklin. I think Troy Franklin would take the McCole Hardman role and play it so much better than him. Not even close. But anyways, that's going to do it for the mock draft video. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching the Pylon Cam. It's your boy Mike. If you liked the video, please like, comment, subscribe. And if you want to see some other type of content, I'm trying to put out different content. I have my wide receiver rankings done. My quarterback rankings are done. I'm working on running backs, corners, tackle, kind of all over the place. But if you want to see other content, if you want to see just team breakdown, what I would do, whatever, let me know in the comments. And let me know what team you want me to do. Like I mentioned, I might have a guy from the Jaguars come on. I'm kind of trying to keep him secret, so like it's a surprise. But Jaguars fans, if you liked the trade idea, there might be a Jaguar-specific video in the future. So please like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace!